So they've just signed Shatori Walker Kimbrough, a genuinely not great guard. I don't know how to describe it because she averaged 1.7 points per game last year. Like, she is statistically one of the least impactful players in the WNBA. Like, she shoots okay from three, I guess. Pretty bad from the field. Um,
There is genuine confusion surrounding the direction the Indiana Fever are taking with their roster construction this offseason. The basic framework of what a team around Caitlin Clark should look like is fairly widely understood: shooting, athleticism, and some size to give her the right tools to operate at her best. What Indiana has assembled so far does not match that picture in any obvious way. No meaningful size has been added, athleticism is thin, and the shooting depth is limited. The signing of Shea Petty Walker Kimbrough encapsulates the puzzlement well.
um, is a pure bench player and is 5'9". I think Kelsey Mitchell shoots, I guess. She's fast. Raven Johnson can't really shoot. Justine Passat's probably going to get cut. Jessica Timmons is probably going to get cut. Leah Boston's a bit of size. Then we got guard. I doubt one of the worst players in the league last year. Should not be in the league. Caitlin, shout out Monique Billings and Ty Harris, I guess. And then Shatori Walker Kimbrough. I don't get it. And then
She averaged 1.7 points per game last season, making her one of the statistically least productive players in the entire league. Her three-point shooting is passable, but her overall field goal numbers are poor, and she profiles strictly as a bench-level contributor at 5'9". The question of why this signing happened, and more pointedly why it appears to be a full roster spot rather than a training camp invite, has not been answered in any satisfying way. Looking at the full picture, Kelsey Mitchell can shoot and bring speed. Raven Johnson is not a shooter.
I guess. And then Shatori Walker Kimbrough. I don't get it. And then obviously, Megan McConnell's not that much of a scorer. Like, I actually don't understand what they're doing. I really don't. Like, are they planning to trade Caitlin Clark or something? Are they assuming Caitlin Clark's going to get injured again? If that's the case, then would you not just trade Caitlin Clark? This is one of these things where I'm like, it actually...
Petty Walker Kimbrough's roster future is uncertain. Jessica Timmons figures to be a training camp cut. Aaliyah Boston provides some size. Ty Harris and Monique Billings fill spots. Megan McConnell is not a scoring threat.
Doesn't make sense. You're like, are they going to trade Kelsey Mitchell mid-season? Are they going to trade Caitlin Clark before the end of her rookie deal? Because Shatori Walker Kimbrough, by the sounds of things with the Indiana Fever, this is not a training camp contract. This is like a full roster spot. Are they going to cut Raven Johnson? Like, where is their minutes for her? Like, we were already questioning.
Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull are both wing players who largely cover the same positional ground. Calling them guard depth overstates the positional diversity they actually bring. When people pointed to Indiana needing more guard depth after last season, the counter is that Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull already address that need to a reasonable degree. The 2 and 3 positions overlap significantly in modern basketball, meaning the Fever already had wing depth. Adding Petty Walker Kimbrough on top of that, at the expense of a roster spot that could go to someone with a clearer fit alongside Clark, is hard to justify on paper.
Like, where is their minutes for her? Like, we were already questioning where the minutes for Raven Johnson were going to come from. But, like, where exactly are the minutes for Shatori Walker Kimbrough going to come from? Like, is Caitlin Clark going to play power forward or something? Like, if Aaliyah gets injured, I don't know what happens. It is literally now a situation where I don't know exactly what the Indiana Fever are.
The 2019 championship credential being cited around some of these veteran signings does not hold up well under scrutiny. The league looked very different then. The MVP that year was Elena Delle Donne. The All-WNBA first team included Courtney Vandersloot and Natasha Howard.
Indiana Fever are are doing this season. I really don't. Like, people are like, oh, like we saw what happened last season when they didn't have enough guard depth. But I'm like, Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull are guard depth. They are guard depth. They're wing depth. Like, let's be real. Like, the 2 and the 3 is the same position.
The following year, Maisha Hines-Allen made the All-WNBA second team, the point being that the 2019 version of the WNBA is not a strong argument for a player's current value in 2025. The minutes distribution problem is also real. With this many guards and wings on the roster, Caitlin Clark's playing time could realistically start with a 2 rather than the 36 or 37 minutes she logged in her rookie year.
Like, the 2 and the 3 is the same position. It is the exact same position in general. So you've realistically got two of these players that basically play the same position in Sophie and Lexi. And then Shatori Walker-Kimbrough for no reason. And then Lynn Dunn is like, she's a WNBA champion. I'm like, okay, yeah, she was a WNBA champion in 2019. Do you know who else was a champion in 2019? Patrick McCaw. Do you know what?
That alone is not necessarily alarming. Player load management is legitimate, but pairing reduced minutes with a roster that does not seem optimized around her raises a different kind of concern entirely. What the roster increasingly resembles is one built to function when Clark is not on the floor, rather than one built to maximize what she produces when she is. If Indiana is operating under the assumption that Clark will miss significant time due to injury again, that would at least explain the logic, but it would also raise the obvious follow-up question of why a team in that situation would not explore trading her while her value is at its peak.
Was a champion in 2019? Patrick McCaw. Do you know in 2019, do you know who made an All-NBA team in 2019? Brooke Lopez. Brooke Lopez, it's not Brooke Lopez, geez, Blake Griffin. Why did I say Brooke Lopez? Blake Griffin. Yeah, Blake Griffin retired 4 years ago. I just want to check all WNBA teams to see who made the all WNBA teams in 2019. Just summing it up. Like, this is going to sum it up. So when these were champions, the MVP was Elena Deladon.
Making the playoffs is still the expected outcome for Indiana, probably in the 80 to 90% probability range, but it is not guaranteed. The team is not far enough ahead of the bottom of the playoff picture to treat postseason qualification as automatic. An injury to a key piece could shift things quickly.
NBA reporters, these Indiana Fever reporters, how many of you guys are going to do the responsible thing and bring up her comments to her, Stephanie White, and the Indiana Fever front office? The fans deserve to hear answers. All right? Because today, now you've got, number one, you've got a split fan base now. Indiana Fever fans are now officially fighting with each other.
And if the Fever do make the playoffs with this construction, the depth concerns that seem manageable in the regular season could become very real once the competition intensifies. The central mystery is whether these roster decisions are the product of a deliberate long-term plan that has not been explained publicly, or whether they represent genuine front office miscalculation about what this team needs. From the outside, the second explanation is becoming harder to argue against. The fallout from the Indiana Fever selecting Raven Johnson in the WNBA draft has been swift and loud.
Fans are now officially fighting with each other. You've got people that aren't fans calling out Fever fans because they're like, oh, look at them. They're crazy again. They don't want Raven. Well, look, we don't want people that can potentially be locker room cancers on the team. Yeah, you're right. Logistically, we don't love the fit either. Not a lot of us are impressed with this offseason that's transpired thus far. I mean, Raven Johnson herself.
The core of the backlash centers on comments Johnson made on a podcast just 16 days before being drafted, comments in which she called Caitlin Clark's fanbase racist, claimed she had been bullied, and alleged she was called a monkey, all stemming from an incident where Clark waved her off during a game 3 years ago. Those remarks have not been forgotten by a large portion of the Fever fan base, and the organization's decision to draft her anyway has split supporters into opposing camps while drawing mockery from outside observers who see the outrage as further evidence of the fanbase's volatility. The deeper frustration is not just with Johnson personally, it is with what the pick signals about how the front office operates. The argument being made by many fans is simple. The moment that podcast episode went public, the names of Amber Cox, Kelly Criswell, and Stephanie White should have come off Johnson as any realistic draft option.
Johnson herself. Let's just start here. I mean, look at that face. She doesn't even want to be on this team. Look at that Haley Van Lith draft day face. Wow. You want to literally, you look at her face and it is like, hello, darkness, my old friend. I mean, she's in hell too. Now, granted, yeah.
The organization has built something genuinely rare in women's basketball, a brand with the kind of cultural weight typically reserved for franchises like the Lakers or Cowboys, and the consensus among a portion of the fan base is that the people running the team have no real understanding of what they are managing or how to protect it. Johnson's draft day reaction did not help matters. Her expression drew immediate comparisons to Haley Van Lith's famously blank response when she was drafted. Neither player appeared particularly thrilled about their situation. Whether that reflects genuine disappointment or simple nerves is impossible to know, but the optics were not ideal for an organization already dealing with a fractured fan reaction.
Now, granted, yeah, welcome to accountability. The Indiana Fever, and they still don't understand this. They've got the Lakers, the Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles, Duke basketball, North Carolina basketball, New York Yankees. They've got that brand in the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark. Like, damn front office, the ownership, they don't have a clue.
Stephanie White addressed the pick in a press conference, explaining the reasoning in basketball terms. With Clark, Ty Harris, and Johnson now in the backcourt, White described Johnson as a true point guard whose value lies in having the ball in her hands and running the offense. She framed the guard-heavy depth as a tool for keeping Kelsey Mitchell fresher, offering rotation flexibility, and creating defensive lineup options, noting that Harris already understands the program's defensive expectations from her time in Connecticut. The explanation was straightforward enough on its face.
They don't have a clue what to do with it. Still, they are lost. And I feel bad because it's not the fans' fault that they're angry. Okay? Fans are going to be angry. Fans are short for fanatic, right? We don't appreciate it. It feels like you didn't even bother.
It did not land well with a significant portion of the audience.
Appreciate it. It feels like you didn't even bother to sit down and do the research. The moment that podcast dropped and Raven made those comments, Amber Cox, Kelly Krosloff, and Stephanie White should have walked over to their draft board and immediately scratched Raven Johnson's name off as any kind of potential draft pick and said, okay, we are not going to bring this into our locker room. We're not going to do this to our fans.
And the pressure being directed at local and national WNBA media is pointed. Reporters who cover this team regularly are being pushed to ask directly whether the front office was aware of Johnson's podcast remarks before the pick was made, and if so, what their reasoning was. The view from many fans is that leaving that question unasked is a failure of basic journalistic accountability toward a fan base that has invested heavily financially and emotionally in this team's growth. The CBA improvements, the expanded viewership, the revenue growth the league has experienced in recent seasons all trace at least partially back to the attention Clark brought. The people who drove that growth feel they are owed a straight answer.
Karoom. We're not going to do this to our fan base. Are they that out of touch with what's going on? They're still getting destroyed, folks. Men's sports are a quest for greatness. The WNBA is a welfare slumber party paid for by men. Amber Cox, Stephanie White are either completely inept or they are making decisions solely to spite 22 and her fans.
The social media environment around the pick has become hostile on multiple sides. South Carolina fans, loyal to Johnson from her college days, have entered the conversation in force, defending her and pushing back against what they characterize as unfair targeting. Fever fans see that response as confirmation that a disruptive dynamic has been introduced into a fan community that was already complicated. The concern being raised is not only about locker room chemistry in the abstract, it is about whether the organization understood the specific social stakes of this particular selection and made it anyway without explanation.
Decision solely to spite 22 and her fans. I choose the latter. And this is my problem. Welcome to the loudest, craziest fan base. Because we won't keep our mouth shut if we're shit on? No. You're not gonna, don't piss in my face and expect me to say it's raining. No, that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. I think
Looking at the broader picture of where this team stands heading into the season, the Raven Johnson situation is one piece of a larger pattern that has left much of the fan base unsatisfied. The roster construction has been guard-heavy to an extreme degree, the front court remains thin, and now a draft pick that carries significant off-court baggage has been added without any public acknowledgement of the controversy surrounding it.